What is going on out there, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of K-Cards Baseball. Thanks for joining me tonight here on the K-Cards channel for Vintage Wednesday. It is, in fact, Vintage Wednesday, and tonight we're going to be talking about 1974 Topps Baseball. All of these 1974 cards that I'm going to cover with you are going to be put up for sale on the Vintage Baseball Card site on Facebook. If you're not familiar with that site and are interested in vintage cards, I highly recommend it. Just go to your Facebook page and type in Vintage Baseball Cards, and it will probably be the first group that actually shows up because I think it is the largest and most popular site in vintage cards. It does have somewhere around 60,000 members, and it is the best place to go to sell or buy any vintage cards. The nice thing about buying on the Vintage Baseball Card site is that you don't pay any of the fees that you would normally pay if you're buying or selling cards through eBay. So that is the nice thing about doing business on the Vintage Baseball Card site. And again, it is the only place that I go to for buying or selling any sort of vintage cards, because usually the sellers that are on there are usually pretty reputable and they do sell cards for a pretty decent price. So I wanted to run through these cards really quick. Let me know down in the comment section if you do have any questions on the vintage card site. I'll probably throw up a link in the description down below so that if you're interested in the vintage card site, you can just go to that link and it should take you right there. Hopefully that's the way it works. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into these 1974 cards. One thing I'll let you guys know, as you guys probably know if you're interested in vintage at all, this set is the same as what we get with any other early 70s set. This set is actually, these cards are actually in pretty decent shape. Anytime I sell cards on the vintage card site, or on any site for that matter, I don't sell any cards with creases, so none of these cards are going to be creased at all. They might have a little bit of few dings in the corners, but these cards are going to typically have a few centering issues, which is pretty typical from cards from the early 70s. Centering wasn't a really big thing back then, but as we know, it is a big thing today. But when I'm buying vintage cards, I don't really even look at the centering issues unless it's drastically off. Then that is something I would be concerned about. I'm much more concerned with any sort of corner damage or corner dings, as well as any sort of creases. I generally stay away from cards with creases in general. It's just kind of my policy. I wanted to run through these cards and discuss a little bit more about the 1974 set, because the 1974 set I think is a really nice set, even though the miscuts on this set are pretty prominent on most of the cards. You can see here in this Don Kessinger card, you can see the centering is pretty dramatically off right to left, probably like 95.5 on this card. The centering top to bottom is not too bad at all, but just the centering on the right to left is dramatically off. Also, if you're not familiar with vintage at all, we do typically get some wax stains or some gum stains. If you do remember, if you are new to the hobby, back in the day, I think it was back prior to 1990, when you went to your local store and bought a pack of cards, you did get a stick of gum in the cards, because that is why they're called bubblegum cards at the end of the day, because it did contain that stick of gum. But that stick of gum caused a lot of damage to many cards back in the day, and on some of these cards you might see an occasional gum stain on them. You can see it right here on this card. If you look at the surface of this card, in my absolutely poor lighting in this hotel room, but you can see on the front of this card some gum or wax stains on the front of this Ron Fairley card. These are actually pretty easy to remove. All you have to take is a used dryer sheet and rub it over the card. It doesn't damage the card at all, but it is really good about removing these wax or gum stains off of the front of the card, or the back of the card for that matter. Let's see if we can find anything decent in here. John Mayberry was a decent player for the Kansas City Royals. This card is dramatically miscut with basically no left edge at all on this card. The corners are in decent shape, but the centering both left to right and top to bottom is actually pretty poor on both the front and the back, particularly top to bottom on the back of this card. But again, no creases and the corners are in decent shape. So this is definitely a saleable card. My guy Danny Thompson, I talk about him pretty much every time I come across one of his cards. This card is actually centered really nicely on the Danny Thompson. He was a player for the Twins for oh gosh, probably 6 or 7 years. Wasn't a big hitter, but was an excellent fielder, and that was the nice part about Danny Thompson. But he did get cancer at a very young age, and he did pass away at a very young age as well. And after he did pass away, Harmon Killebrew every year did host a golf tournament up in Fargo, North Dakota in Danny Thompson's name, and it was the Danny Thompson charity golf event every year up until basically the time that Harmon passed away. He always held that golf tournament. I don't know if that golf tournament's still going on today, but it was heavily involved with cancer research, and yeah, so every time I see one of his cards, I always call him out. Here's another card that does have the gum or wax stains on the front of the card on this Reggie Cleveland. Dave Roberts was a good player. Ken Holtzman was a really good pitcher for the Oakland A's during the time that the Oakland A's did win the World Series. I think they won, World Series from 72 to 74. And that was, yeah. Anyways, there's a nice Don Baylor. This is his rookie card. I don't think it's his rookie. 71 looks to be Don Baylor's rookie, but Don Baylor went on to have a great career, has a DH. He also was a World Series winner with the Twins in 1987. I don't think he got to 500 home runs. There's Jim Fregosi, longtime manager for various teams. This is a nice card that does have 2 Hall of Famers on it. This 1973 run batted in cards with Reggie Jackson and Willie Stargell on the front of the card. So this would be a really good card. I'll probably sell a card like this for... the centering is off on it quite a bit. Probably $3 on this card is what I'll probably sell it. Most of these cards, just as long as they don't have any major dings on the corners, I'll generally sell these cards for somewhere between 50 and 75 cents. Depends upon the popularity of the player. Dave Parker, look at this card. I mean, pretty badly on the centering. It does have part of the other card that was on the sheet next to this card, and it does not have any sort of right-hand edge at all. Pretty badly miscut on the Dave Parker card, which is unfortunate because this card could be fairly valuable if it wasn't miscut as badly as it is. So I'll set that one aside. Tom Griffith is in there. Bill Hands is in there. Paul Casanova. I always liked that name, Paul Casanova. Didn't play a long time with the Braves at all, but like the name for sure, so that is a name that definitely stood out. Jim Perry, Cy Young Award winner Jim Perry, brother of Gaylord Perry, Hall of Famer Gaylord Perry. Jim never did get into the Hall of Fame. Didn't have the wins at the end of the day, even though he was a Cy Young Award winner. I think in 71, he did win the Cy Young. This card is actually pretty poorly miscut top to bottom. Basically, it doesn't have an upper edge at all. But anyways, moving on. Randy Hanley, Tom Timmerman, any sort of Bert Capaneris was a great shortstop for the A's back in the World Series days for the A's as well. Pretty popular player back then. Did have a lot of speed and did steal a lot of bases. Larry Heisel had a really good career, actually, did Larry Heisel, as did Bob Watson. Bob Moose, Chris Chambliss was probably best known for his years with the Yankees. He was a great player for the Yankees. I think he was primarily a DH with the Yankees in the 90s or late 80s, I would say. Phil Roof. Alrighty, moving on. We got a few more to go through. Another Phil Roof card. Dick Green. Don't remember much about him at all. There's Harmon Killebrew. I didn't even know that this card was even in here. Nice Harmon Killebrew. This card is actually in pretty decent shape. Does have a dinged up right hand corner. Centering is off probably, 80-20 on left to right. Top to bottom actually isn't that bad. The back is in good shape on this Harmon Killebrew card. Probably about a $10 or $15 card here. I'd probably put that in maybe a PSA 5 is what I put this Harmon Killebrew card in. And I'll probably sell that for somewhere around $10, I suppose. I'll set that one aside, actually. Don Money. Don Hood. Frank Quillisi when he was managing the Twins. I always call out Twins. I'm sure you guys get tired of that, but It's the team I'm most familiar with, but I do remember most of these players from back in the day. Here's the 73 World Series Game 2. The A's played the Mets in the 73 World Series, and the Oakland A's went on to win that World Series, actually. Here's another 73 World Series card from Game 3 when Oakland won 3-2 against the Mets as well. Obviously against the Mets as well. That was kind of a dumb thing to say. Joe Niekro, brother of Phil Niekro. Again, Joe Niekro is not a Hall of Famer, but did have a pretty decent career as a pitcher, even though his brother Phil is a Hall of Famer. So that between the Niekros and the Perrys, they were two brother combination teams, or two brother combos that actually pretty much dominated pitching in the 70s and through the 80s. Did those four pitchers. Went on to have, particularly Gaylord and Phil, went on to have really good careers at the end of the day. Did pitch into their mid to late 40s as well. Particularly Gaylord. I think he pitched to like he was like 48 or something weird like that. You always want to look at the rookie cards in the set. The most notable rookies on this particular card are Brian Downing, who had a good career primarily with the Angels, and Bake McBride. I remember him mostly with the Philadelphia Phillies, was Bake McBride. Here's another rookie card, and Frank White had a great career with the Royals. Played for the Royals for quite some time. Was a great player for them. On this rookie card, Frank Tanana, probably the most notable rookie on this card, was a great. Him and Nolan Ryan absolutely dominated in that Angels pitching rotation. Did Frank Tanana and Nolan Ryan, number 1 and 2 in that rotation. This rookie shortstops card, there isn't any major rookies on this card that are notable, but moving on. Tommy Agee, I think, is in there. Did I just see him? Yep, there's Tommy Agee. Towards the end of his career. And that is pretty much about it for the 74 cards. I will run through, I did pull out some of the Hall of Famers before I started this video, so we'll go through some of the Hall of Famers that I will be putting up for auction and talk a little bit about what the auction cards are going to be going for. I also did find some traded cards in this particular set. I don't think there isn't any major traded cards. Tommy Agee right there. Phil Sudeikis. Steve Stone. When he got traded to the Cubs and did go on to have a great announcing career for the Cubs, was Steve Stone. Yeah, so that's actually kind of a cool card. George Mitterwald, when he got traded from the Twins to the Cubs. Bob Locker, Reggie Cleveland, and Craig Robinson. So that was what we got on the traded cards. Now looking at some of the Hall of Famers I do have, we did just talk about the Harmon Killebrew and the Dave Parker. Billy Williams, do have a couple of Billy Williams cards. And then Burt Blyleven, Hall of Famer Burt Blyleven. This card is actually in really nice condition. Probably going to ask probably in that $6 or $7 range for the Burt Blyleven. This is his, third year card. 71 is his rookie card. So this would be his third or fourth year card. Put a nice Burt Blyleven there. And finally, Luis Aparicio for the Boston Red Sox. Not one of the more, I would say, more famous Hall of Famers, but he's definitely is a Hall of Famer. If you ever want to find out about Luis Aparicio, definitely go to Baseball Reference and look up his WAR. His WAR was pretty ridiculous, and that probably was one of the major factors in getting him into the Hall of Fame. But he was a great player for the Boston Red Sox for quite some time. So that is a look at the 1974 cards that I'll have up for sale on the vintage card site. Again, if you're interested in more information on the vintage card site, just throw a comment in the comment section and I will definitely get back to you, let you know what any information that you guys need regarding the site for sure. Big proponent of that site because they've been always really good to me, and I've always had really good luck selling cards on that particular site. So that's about all I got for you guys tonight. Thanks for checking out this video as well as all the other content on the channel. If you're new to the channel, definitely go down and hit that like, subscribe. Would appreciate that. And thanks again to all my OG subscribers for your continued support of everything we do here on the K-Cards channel. Be safe out there, guys, and happy collecting. We'll talk to you guys later with more great content here on the K-Cards channel. See ya.